overnight in Brooklyn. At least 5 people shot, including a 6-year-old boy, during a street party to celebrate Jouvert, marking the start of Carnival in Caribbean cultures. The event was supposed to be virtual this year due to the pandemic, but that didn't stop hundreds of people from flooding the streets. No motive for the shooting has yet been identified. None of the victims were seriously injured.
It's 6:01. Now to that breaking news in Brooklyn, where 5 people were shot overnight, including a young boy. This happening just before 3 this morning in Crown Heights, just blocks away from Jouvert celebrations, where hundreds took to the streets, even though officials called for the event to be completely virtual. Live team coverage this morning begins with Eyewitness News reporter Derek Waller from Kings County Hospital. Derek, good morning.
Ken, good morning. Right now, a 6-year-old boy is being treated for a gunshot wound, shot in the leg overnight. He is expected to survive. Check out this dramatic video from overnight showing emergency medical workers rushing that little boy to an ambulance around 3 o'clock in the morning. The boy was shot in the leg. 4 other people also shot, including 3 men and a woman near the intersection of Nostrand Avenue and Crown Street, again around 3 a.m. A large crowd gathered at the scene. We also saw multiple people being loaded into ambulances, all of them transported here to Kings County Hospital. Police tell us all of the victims are expected to survive. Right now, I can tell you that police are questioning 2 men in connection with this shooting. They also tell us they've recovered 2 guns from the scene. And just a few minutes ago, the chief of department, Terry Monahan, actually tweeted calling this a senseless shooting in Brooklyn where 5 people were shot. He says officers arrested 2 men, recovered 2 guns. The investigation is in its early stages, he tweeted, and is ongoing. And he said, we're asking anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. That's 1-800-577-TIPS.
That breaking news in Brooklyn, a 6-year-old boy is one of the latest victims of the city's surge in gun violence. He was among 5 people injured during an early morning shooting. 10 York's Catherine Craig's in Crown Heights following it all. Cat.
And that little boy, Michael, was with his mother. They were both shot in the lower body. This all happened just across the street where you see police are. Detectives have been walking up and down the sidewalk there. That's where people were gathered, having a celebration when all of a sudden there were gunshots. Taking a look at this video, this happened about 3 o'clock this morning. Police tell us of the 5 people shot, 2 are critically hurt, 3 are in stable condition, including the 6-year-old boy who was shot in the thigh. The shootings happened in the area of Nostrand Avenue and Crown Street. There had been people out here barbecuing, celebrating the West Indian Day festivities. The regular overnight parade known as Jouvert had been canceled because of COVID and crowd concerns. So you had people gathered out here. They were cooking and there was music, and then all of a sudden there was gunfire. We talked with a witness who tried to give first aid to the shooting victims.
And then the mom was holding the boy, and she was just freaking out and losing it, and people were collapsing and crying. There was a lot of pandemonium and people just upset about the situation.
And it was frantic, a chaotic scene, according to witnesses. The other victims who suffered gunshot wounds to the legs and back are men in their 30s. Police also took into custody 2 men who were nearby. They found guns on those 2 men. It's unsure, Michael, if they're connected to the shootings that happened here, but they were in the area when all of this violence took place. But you see police officers and detectives remain on the scene here as the investigation continues. Reporting live, Catherine Craig, today in New York. We'll send it back to you, Michael.
Hi, Kristen. We're learning that 2 of those victims live in the nearby area. We're on Nostrand Avenue and Crown Street, and police are here putting some markers down to indicate where those shots were fired early this morning. We're learning those 5 people that were shot, it was a mother, and that 6-year-old boy was her son, and then 3 adult men. And all of those victims were brought to Kings County Hospital early this morning, where they were all in stable condition. We're also learning from police that 2 firearms were recovered. NYPD Chief of Detectives Rodney Harrison has been on the scene throughout the morning, and here's what he had to say about this multiple shooting.
But it's an unfortunate incident because we're doing a lot of good work, you know, just to make sure we kept the peace and stop the violence. But you know, these incidents unfortunately do happen sometimes.
As of now, Kristen, no word on a motive for this shooting. Rodney Harrison couldn't say if this was related to a Jouvert-related celebration. He was just saying this is like just a bunch of people enjoying the nice weather last night, enjoying the evening. If you have any information, police ask you to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. We're in Crown Heights. Justine Ray, New York 1.
Good morning. You know, that happened around 3 o'clock this morning. Right now, the intersection of Nostrand Avenue and Crown Street remains taped off. Officers still keeping watch over it. There were hundreds of officers and investigators who were out here early this morning, just before 3 a.m. 5 people were shot here at this intersection, including a 6-year-old boy who was shot in the upper thigh, and his mother. The 3 other victims, all adult males, all of them sent to Kings County Hospital, where they are expected to survive. We talked to a neighbor this morning who says that mother was coming home from work and was checking on her daughter, who was at a Jouvert celebration on the corner.
He went to school with my son. I know him. So I was in so much shock. I just ran and keep running. I went home. I didn't want to be by myself. I came back. All of us that was here, we're on President Street just sitting down, crying.
Police tell us 2 people are in custody and 2 firearms have been recovered. They cannot, however, confirm if this was at all related to Jouvert, which took place overnight. The celebrations have been marked with isolated incidents of violence in the past few years. This year's celebrations, however, are virtual because of COVID-19. And Mayor de Blasio has asked people not to host big parties, but overnight we did see hundreds who were marching down Eastern Parkway. Officers have been stationed all around central Brooklyn overnight and into this morning. Light towers were up at practically every other intersection. The police truly out in full force, especially when we have seen such a violent summer in the city. 700 people shot since June. Police are asking that if you have any information about this shooting, to call Crime Stoppers right away. That number, 1-800-577-TIPS. Live this morning in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, I'm Katie Corrado, PIX11 News.
This is where the parade would normally kick off. The shooting you mentioned was about a mile and a half from where we are. Just before 3 o'clock this morning, police tell us a 6-year-old boy was among those shot. 3 men and a woman were also hit near Nostrand and Crown. All of them expected to survive. Unfortunately, this violence recalls previous West Indian American Day celebration, but so much else about this year looks and feels so much different. Overnight, police were out in full force in Brooklyn. Just because the Jouvert Festival and the West Indian American Day Parade are virtual this year doesn't mean the celebrations are too.
We here. This is Labor Day. It's Labor Day, whatever. They said we could come outside. We outside. That's it.
At a peace walk yesterday, Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams called for an end to the recent bloodshed in the city.
Merely because someone says something is canceled does not mean everyone got the memo or the message. And our goal is to be on the ground and interact with people in a real way to communicate to prevent violence from taking place.
That's the police commissioner's goal, too.
We're going to have a very robust detail in place for all of Brooklyn particularly.
This has been an especially violent summer, with shootings up significantly. Police do not want that to continue today, a day when there have historically been shootings near the parade route.
If there's violence, we're going to make arrests.
Besides violent troublemakers, police will be looking for something else as well. Large gatherings that in this pandemic pose health risks. City officials urge people to celebrate small, and they say if you don't live in Brooklyn, stay away.
Obviously, there's groups out and out. We are going to try and break it up. We're not looking to arrest people.
Mayor de Blasio echoed that message.
If there's a gathering, it has to be kept to under 50 people, and it has to be kept smart.
And you heard the police commissioner mention that robust presence, and it is robust. Even though the parade is virtual this year, the cops are very much out here in full force. We see them at every intersection here along Eastern Parkway. But again, so much about this year just looks and feels different. It was much easier to get here. There are no street closures. And Eastern Parkway, normally at this hour on a regular year, would be very lively and excited. This morning, it's pretty quiet.
Gun violence in Brooklyn this morning with multiple people shot, including a young child.
It comes as pre-dawn celebrations were underway for the West Indian Day Parade, even though the event was supposed to be virtual this year. CBS 2's John Diaz joins us live from Nostrand Avenue in Crown Heights with more. John?
Yeah, good morning, Chris and Natalie. Police confirming with us this morning that 5 people were shot right here behind me. Luckily, though, all of them expected to be okay. I want to take you right out here to the scene. You can see police had this whole area blocked off as they continue to investigate. Now, neighbors say that a large group of people were having a Jouvert celebration with a DJ here at the corner of Crown Street and Nostrand Avenue in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn just before 3 o'clock this morning. That's when police say 5 people were shot, 3 men, one 47-year-old woman, and her 6-year-old son. But according to police, they are expected to live. Now, police say that they have 2 people in custody right now and collected 2 firearms from the scene, but they can't confirm with us this morning if these 2 people are the ones who pulled the trigger or motive behind this. Now, friends of the 47-year-old woman say that she came by here with her son to just check on her older daughter who was attending the party.
The only reason she was over here is because her daughter wasn't answering the phone. And after she spoke to her daughter, they were walking right here. And that's when 3 shots went off. And I saw the little boy on the floor full of blood, and I ran.
Now, also right before the shooting, hundreds of people were out celebrating in nearby streets. You can see that here in this video. Large-scale Jouvert festivities are not permitted this year due to the COVID pandemic, and the West Indian Day Parade was also canceled. Instead, they've been encouraging a virtual celebration, and NYPD has set up light towers and increased presence both in uniform and undercover this weekend to make sure that large gatherings don't congregate. And on Eastern Parkway, cops are at almost every single corner. Now, over the weekend, preliminary numbers showed that there were 14 separate shootings with 14 victims, 3 of them fatally. This most recent shooting, though, again happening right here behind me earlier this morning, not included in that tally. We're live this morning from Crown Heights, Brooklyn. John Diaz, CBS 2 News.
All right, John, thank you.